Google Analytics, how to get set up. So starting at the beginning, if you're starting a brand new website or you're not sure if you have Google Analytics installed yet, you can go to analytics.google.com. And this is what you're going to see. And when you create an account, you're doing it with an email address. And the reason I say this is because there's kind of two different definitions of account. And it really applies to the agency world pretty hardcore. If you're managing multiple, like we happen to be fortunate enough to have access to probably like 500 different website Google Analytics accounts. So we need to stay hyper organized in terms of making sure that at any given time we can give access to any of those website accounts to any personnel from that company or any partner agency or anything like that. And so this is where this setup process is very important to make sure that it's done the right way. So you'll set it up with an email account, and it can either be at gmail.com, free gmail.com account, or it can be if anyone uses, I know most of you in here actually use or not all of you, but I think a good portion of you actually use like the G Suites, like Google Mail for your business. So you might have profastpitch.com, but it might be an actual Google account, so you can use that. So ours is datadriven.design, so we did that as well. And so each email account actually gives you 100 Google Analytics accounts. So that's kind of the dual definition of account. And what you want to do is make sure that each time you set up a new business, that it's its own new account. Especially like I would say for Rachel or for Brittany, Sherry, like anyone who if you're going to be managing multiple clients, because what ends up happening if you don't do it, if you do it at the property level, which I'll show you in a minute, is you actually end up having multiple clients under the same property, and then you can't give the client actually access to their Google Analytics account without giving them access to all of your clients' Google Analytics accounts. So this is kind of the main point here. So these are the screens that you'll see. It's very straightforward. It just wants you to fill out. It wants you to name the account, name the website, put the accurate web URL in here, and it gives you your tracking ID. So then it drops your tracking ID. It's always going to be UA dash and then the number. And it stands for Universal Analytics. So the UA number, you'll hear me say that all the time. I'm a geek. Does a website have a UA number? There's an easy way to see if a website even has Google Analytics on it without even having back-end access to the website. So I'll walk you guys through that too. It's basically looking in the source code and seeing if there's a UA number. It's super simple to get this installed on your website. It's going to give you your Universal Analytics JavaScript code. It's just a small little script here, and you can see where it says end script. And you just need to put that in your website somehow, and it gives that code at the account level, but it's going to automatically create a new property for you because it knows the property just basically means website. So like for example, data-driven design, we might have data-driven.design, and then we might start data-driven.education. That would be a new website. So then we would have two different properties. So this is what this is what your main administrative screen will look like when getting set up. You'll have your account. Again, if you hit this drop down here, you can see up to 100 of them. And then at the property level, it'll give you 50 properties. So it's pretty robust, totally free. Again, you don't have to pay for any of this. And then so getting it into your website is usually straightforward as well. I've given WordPress and Squarespace examples up here. This is the WordPress example. So there's a couple different ways that it can be done very easily. Each WordPress theme, there's a good chance, has a spot to put Google Analytics code. Every theme has a theme options section. So I would first recommend going into theme options and seeing if there's a way to just go ahead and paste in that script that I was showing you on the previous screen. A lot of times though, it's as easy as just plugging in the UA number. It's going to do the exact same thing. So there's a Google Analytics plugin by Jeff Starr called GA Plugin Options. That if you're managing any kind of WordPress site and your theme doesn't have the theme options to put in the JavaScript, you could use GA Plugin Options plugin, and then just all you do there is take your UA number and just paste it into the to that field, and then you've got Google Analytics up and running on your site, and you'll start getting data within the next 24 hours. The bad news is you won't be able to ever retroactively go get any data, so that's why we're always hyper about like, hey, did we install Google Analytics on this website right away? Because you can never go back in time and get data that hasn't been recorded. So the Squarespace example for any of you Squarespace folks out there is, this is always going to be the same for every Squarespace site. You're going to go, if you have a Squarespace site, you're probably familiar with this, you're going to go to Advanced, then External Services, then Google Analytics account number, and then put your UA number there, and then you're up and running. So that is easy. Now, I talked about accounts and properties. Did that all make sense? Does anybody have any questions on that? Happy to answer any questions. No questions are on the line here. Then there's views. So the concept behind a view, now we get into a little bit more of the strategic stuff. And ideally, if you take the Google Analytics Academy online, they're going to tell you to set up a core set of views. They're going to tell you to set up, your default view is going to be called all website data. So I would say 90% of websites just have that one view. And that's fine. I mean, it's better than not having any data. But then you'll get into a conversation with someone who will say, well, what about my internal users? Like, I don't want to see them because that skews my web traffic. So this is where it starts to get in, and now you start to use some of this stuff. So then ideally what you want to do is set, under your property, set a test view and a master view. So your test view would basically just be to test something like a filter, like an IP filter. So you would take your company's internet service provider or your IP address, and you would create a filter for that, which I'll show you how to do in an exercise. And then you would test that against your all website data view. And then if that works, you've also created your master view. So basically your test view just verifies that what you're trying to do is working. And then as long as it is, then you're using your master view to kind of see your real data that you're going to track against. So that happens all the time. That's the number one thing that happens is client says, hey, I just want to filter out my own web traffic. So whether they work from home or they have multiple office locations, you can create filters for all of these, put them in, and create up to 25 views in a property. So there's other kinds of strategies behind creating views. Internal IP filter, partner IP filter, that's what I was just talking about, where you take an IP address and filter it out. Other ways that we've done cool stuff that I think is cool, is you can set up like you could use views to set up like different dashboards. So if you work at a larger company, or you have a client that's larger and you're trying to set up a little bit of Google Analytics business intelligence for them to help them make some decisions on their marketing strategy. Like an executive level person probably wouldn't get as granular as like someone in the marketing department, like an analyst. So you could have like an analyst view, and you can use goals in the analyst view that are different than the goals in like the executive view. And what I mean by that is like an analyst might want to see down to the detail about how many people view this particular page on our website. That's going to be important to an analyst because they're going to want to know, well, what's the bounce rate of that page versus the bounce rate of this other page, or how many arrows were clicked on this page versus this other page. It'll help them make a decision. The CEO or the COO is not going to care about that. They're going to care about purchases made in this particular time period, right? So you could actually use views as a simple way of having like a CEO dashboard, a marketing department dashboard, and let's say like a sales department dashboard.